All right, man, peace. So now recently, two of the greatest NFL players at their respective positions were on the Skip and Shannon show. And they got into a very good discussion about who they believe were the best players at their respective positions. So let's see what they have to say.
And are still in studio with us. We love having them here. So let's talk wide receivers. Terrell ranks third all-time in touchdown receptions and second all-time in receiving yards, right behind former teammate Jerry Rice. So it goes without saying, you're a very big deal, Terrell. So thanks for being here. Who do you think is the greatest wide receiver of all time?
I'm gonna go with my same analogy I did with the Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Jerry Rice is always gonna be number one. Obviously, there's a lot of debate, discussion about who's 2 or 3. So I'll help everyone out with that. Jerry's 1 and T.O. is 1A.
I don't have a problem with that. T.O. or Randy Moss, 1A. Either one, don't have a problem with. But Jerry's number 1, and like Terrell himself said, he will always be number 1. Jerry's the most dominant and the greatest NFL player I've ever seen. All right. Did everything, maxed out on everything as an NFL player.
And I say that because, like I said, there's no argument with what Jerry's done. But I think about my body of work and what I did. I did more with less. Jerry Rice played with 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. There was not a drop-off in that quarterback position. He played with Joe Montana, and then he goes with Steve Young. You give me those 2 guys, there's no telling what my stats would be like.
Now, Terrell just said that he's 1A, Jerry Rice is 1, and then he goes about trying to prove that he's better than Jerry Rice, as opposed to what he should be doing, which is trying to prove that he's better than Randy Moss. That's what he should be doing. Because the Jerry Rice conversation, that's like Michael Jordan. You're not going to touch that one. All right. You should be trying to prove that you're better than Randy Moss, because that's the guy who really the debate topic should be about between you and Randy Moss, because Jerry Rice is untouchable. Now, in regards to his statement that Jerry Rice played with greater quarterbacks than he played with, well, yes, Joe Montana and Steve Young are 2 of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play. But let's not get it twisted. There were no other wide receivers that are considered to be the greatest wide receivers ever. And Joe Montana played with a lot of wide receivers. Nobody says Dwight Clark or Freddie Solomon or Ronaldo Nehemiah were the greatest wide receivers ever. Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying J.J. Stokes is the greatest wide receiver ever. All those guys played with Joe Montana, and J.J. Stokes, he played with Steve Young. And I hear this argument a lot about Jerry Rice playing with the greatest 2 quarterbacks ever to try to chip away at him being the greatest wide receiver ever. Let's keep one thing in mind, please. Jerry Rice's greatest season, you know who was the quarterback in his greatest stat season? Elvis Gerbach. All right? That was the quarterback. Wasn't Joe Montana, wasn't Steve Young. It was Elvis Gerbach. Let's please keep that in mind.
And this is coming from a guy that really didn't know how to play the receiver position.
Right.
I went to a small school, UT Chattanooga, was drafted raw, green. I learned how to become a receiver my years there in San Francisco.
Edie, what you got, Edie? What you got on it?
Wait a second. So you're saying you're 1A to the 1, right?
Right.
But I think you're making a case that you're actually 1.
Thank you. Skip picked up on what I picked up on. He's not trying to prove he's better than Randy Moss. He's trying to prove that he's better than Jerry Rice. And no, T.O., you're not on Jerry Rice's level. Now, as an athlete, you're a better athlete than Jerry Rice was. You had a greater physique. Genetically, T.O. is a freak. All right, like T.O. could compete in like those Mr. Fitness contests and all that other stuff. Jerry Rice did not. He wasn't genetically gifted physique-wise like T.O. But what Jerry Rice was genetically gifted with were huge hands. Now, Jerry did have issues with drops early on in his career. And people have made a big deal about Jerry's admission that he utilized stickum on his gloves for a portion of his career. But Jerry Rice did not just play with Joe Montana and Steve Young. He also played with Rich Gannon. Everywhere Jerry went, he elevated the play of his quarterback. And let me also say this. Terrell Owens played in the era in the 2000s when they started to open up the offense more. So even though Jerry played with greater quarterbacks, the West Coast offense in the 80s was viewed as a revolutionary offense because they're one of the first offenses, along with Air Coryell, to start passing as much as they ran. The West Coast offense under Joe Montana was like a 50-50 offense. Joe didn't even have a 4,000-yard passing season until like 1990. All right, 4,000 yards. So they played in an era where they would run the play clock all the way down to 0 every time out. Jerry also played with great players like Brent Jones and John Taylor and Roger Craig out the backfield, where he had to share the load of pass catching. T.O. played in an era where they started to throw the ball 40 times a game. So it's not just about the quarterback, it's also the style of play.
I mean, that's what I was hearing. No, I mean, I think in your heart of hearts, I think that's what you believe.
No,
Yes, that is what he believes in his heart of heart. I agree with Skip.
you hear a lot.
I don't.
I hear a lot. You interpret the things the way you interpret.
Okay, but you're saying that your degree of difficulty was harder than Jerry's because he played in the.
He's saying it's like that. It's like you pick them.
Exactly.
It's like
1 to 1A. But
it's like you pick
me speaking today, like, yeah, Jerry's always going to be the greatest of all time to me. Like I said, but in my eyes, I could have done some of the same things with what he had at the quarterback position.
And he's not the only one to have said that. Guys like Michael Irvin and Chris Carter and Sterling Sharp, they say the same thing in regards to Jerry Rice. But all that is ifs and buts and candies and nuts, you know what I'm saying? Jerry Rice is the guy who was drafted there. And unlike Michael Irvin and Chris Carter, he didn't have cocaine problems. Unlike Sterling Sharp, he didn't have neck problems. All those things going to his greatness. All right? Not getting hurt is a gift. It's a skill. All right? Being able to avoid big shots and those type of things. A lot of that goes into immaculate conditioning and also treating your body right. No drugs, no alcohol. Those are all things that made Jerry the best. Also not having mental problems like T.O. and Randy Moss had. All right, those are the differences, man. You know, everybody wants to make it about how fast they ran the 40-yard dash. And let me tell you something. Jerry Rice mentally had the edge over all these guys.
You had it for a while in San Francisco, obviously.
No, I played with Steve Young for only like 3 years.
Okay, but I mean,
And then I played
Yeah.
I played with Jeff Garcia and a number of other guys after that. Tim Rattay. So again, I played with a number of quarterbacks. But you look at my body of work with the caliber quarterbacks compared to those guys, it's not the same.
Right, but it's not about the quarterbacks you play with. It's about how many passes were thrown your way. That's really all it's about when you want to make the argument about who's the better receiver. It's not really about the quarterback because a lot of times when you play with a great quarterback, he's spreading the ball around. So you're not going to get the opportunities that another receiver might get. Now, every once in a while, you have a guy like a Warren Moon who goes to Minnesota and he just locks in on Chris Carter, and Chris Carter has back-to-back 120-plus catch seasons. All right? Like I've already stated, Jerry Rice played in an offense in San Francisco where if he had a great season, he caught 85 balls, 90 balls. You had a guy like John Taylor, who a lot of people might not know about. If you grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, you know about him, though. John Taylor was the other receiver on the 49ers, and he was a freakish talent also. He wasn't a football junkie like Jerry Rice, but he could make all the plays. He had great hands. He was tough. He could run all the routes. He was a great blocker. But, you know, he was just a natural. Like John Taylor looked like he didn't even work out. He just went out there and just played. He was a great receiver. One of the great second receivers ever to play, John Taylor. And Brent Jones was a great tight end also. And like I mentioned, Roger Craig, he came out the backfield catching 70 balls. So it wasn't like Joe Montana and Steve Young were just zoning in on Jerry Rice, making sure he caught 120 balls a year. That just wasn't happening. That didn't happen for Jerry until I think the mid-90s when he caught over 120 passes.
And then on top of that, you look at early on in Jerry's career, he played, not to say to diminish his skill set, but the defenses weren't as complex as they are now. It was basically cover 2, cover 1, cover 3, whatever the case may be. He was eating guys alive.
Well, once upon a time in December, 2000, because they were like triple teaming him on Jerry Rice Day, you caught 20 balls in that offense.
And then they started triple and double teaming
I know,
as well.
I
remember playing in Dallas. This is how I knew I was on the biggest stage and I was starting to become whomever. I was lined up, and Michael Irvin, your guy, was on the sideline. They put a linebacker and a cornerback on me to try to stop me. That let me know right there that I really had a right.
Then once you run into the star again.
That is a fact. That's not a joke. That's a fact.
Right to the star. Who you got, Edie?
Okay. All right. Wow. That was kind of deep.
That was deep.
That was deep. No, not really. I agree with T.O. to a point. Is that Jerry Rice is number one. T.O. to me is number two. But I say this much, and I say just what he said. When you look at the players that Jerry played with, Jerry was not a speedy guy, wasn't fast.
People always say Jerry wasn't fast, but I tell you what, he had game speed. Almost nobody ever caught Jerry Rice from behind. All right, Jerry Rice with a football was as fast as anybody. I saw a game. It was a playoff game that they played against the Redskins in I think it was '91 postseason. And he caught a pass, and Darryl Greene was behind him. And if you know anything about Darryl Greene was the NFL's fastest man. He used to run like a 4.1, 4.2 40. This is back in like like I said, Darryl Greene came in the league in like the early 80s. When I was watching football, he started, he was still in the league. This is like 91. And Jerry Rice put distance between himself and Darryl Greene. All right? Jerry Rice on the football field had incredible speed.
You got guys who ran better routes, but he played with some great quarterbacks. And you always got to put that in there. You might not want to, but it's just facts.
Yeah.
T.O. did not have those quarterbacks. He didn't have that luxury. But I go to say that to say this. I think the most talented wide receiver, with the most talent I've ever seen, Randy Moss. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was just raw. I mean, I saw him and watched him run the center, just watching him run a go route, and the ball was over his head by 7-8 yards, and he went from shoot. I'm like, this guy is talented. I mean, I think the most talented.
Randy Moss, another guy who ran a 4.1 40. Right. That's he probably had the most applicable nickname in NFL history, the Freak. I remember from his first season, when he put that right hand in the air, that was a touchdown. He used to catch the ball one-handed like it was nothing. I mean, he made it look so easy. Like you have Odell today making one-handed catches, and he has a lot of flair with it. Randy used to catch it like he was catching a baseball.
So, and I agree with T.O. It's like a you pick 'em. I mean, really, because Jerry. I mean, people always say he's the greatest. He got 3 Super Bowl rings. T.O. Played. People forget this man played in the Super Bowl with a broke leg. Almost like Jack Youngblood. You know how tough that is to play receiver running routes with a broke leg as a running back. I mean,
in a play.
And signed off said, I'll take responsibility whatever happens to me.
So are you saying 1A to 1?
I'll say. I mean, I'm just saying, you pick them. I mean, and I'm saying this to you. I'm gonna ask you this question, Skip, right here on air. To me, as a Hall of Famer, also you, Shannon, as a Hall of Famer. This man deserves to wear that yellow jacket. How in the world can you say that if you 1, 2, 3 as a receiver or whatever position, quarterback, running back, defensive back, that ever played in the National Football League, and you don't wear a gold jacket? That's almost like a farce. It's like saying
blasphemy.
It's like saying Babe Ruth, played soccer. We didn't play baseball.
I don't really know what that analogy was supposed to mean from Eric, but I get what he's saying. It is ridiculous. But that shows you how petty the media is. Skip is behind. Skip co-signs T.O. not going to the Hall because Skip feels like Terrell took away a chance for his team to win a championship, the Dallas Cowboys. But once again, it shows you how petty the media is. There's no way in the world that T.O. is not supposed to be in the Hall of Fame, and he should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. They're going to make him wait. Prior to like the 6th or 7th ballot. But I've already touched on this. The reason why T.O. really wants to get in is because you have to understand something. When you get into the Hall of Fame, you're set for life. Because now, as far as the memorabilia business is concerned, now the demand for your autograph goes up 100-fold. You can sit down and you can make $300,000 in a weekend signing autographs as a Hall of Famer. All right. You can make into the 7 figures a year as a Hall of Famer, depending on how many autographs you sign every year, and of course the market value for your autograph. That's a major deal, especially for a guy like a T.O. who is struggling with finances because he has a lot of baby mamas. All right, he's another guy who let himself get sucked into the baby mama trap, where he goes out and impregnates a bunch of broads and doesn't understand that the woman has control over the man in the context of the state. All right, a lot of you brothers don't understand that the woman has control over you in the court system. Okay, they have control over you in the court system, particularly you so-called black men, because they want your child to be raised by the woman, because it's easier to train the child through the school system when the woman is leading the home, because she's less likely to question the things that the child is taught, because it's in a woman's nature to follow. All right, the man is more likely to question things and to come against certain things. The woman is more likely to go along with it, especially if that's what's getting her paid. All right, but once you sign that birth certificate, the child is owned by the state, not by you.
We
It's
don't
like
have
saying,
time
hold up,
to do this
hold
again,
up, let me
because
say
we
it.
have done it before.
But let me say this here. It's like this is black skin. It ain't green.
Actually, no, brother, your skin is brown. Your sweater's black.
You ain't fooling nobody. I mean, it's like a joke.
Well, clearly they fool you.
We're not going to it, but I'm just saying. We know
I hear you.
as players.
I
We
get
talk
it.
as players. We know who can play.
We ride the
know
bus.
guys who can play, and they put guys are in the Hall of Fame, and I'll never say guys in there. You like, huh? Huh? How he get in?
There's no doubt that Darryl could play at the highest level, at a Hall of Fame level.
I could play right now.
You can play right now?
I would say that.
I can play right now.
Even he doesn't think he could play right
Oh,
now.
I can't play. I can't play, but because you know why he can play? Because he wants to. And
Okay.
he's taking care of himself. I mean, he's pretty much the same size as he was when he played. He might be a few pounds lighter.
Okay, so I'm going to get to my pick here, which dovetails off what I'm going to say about you. And you.
Terrell couldn't play today. The brother's in great shape, but no. It's totally different, and I'm sure he's probably still, his physique is probably in fine condition, and his body fat level is low, but you can't take those type of collisions at his age.
And you know what I think, that you didn't tear apart just one team, but it was three in a row, three potential.
What I like about Skip is Skip will look you dead in your face and tell you what he feel. That's one thing I'll give him credit for. Skip will look you dead in your face. You teared apart 3 teams. I spoke to players on those teams, and that's what I feel. I'm not voting you in. And as a white guy, that's how I feel.
Potential Super Bowl teams he tore apart, and you weren't there, so you don't get it.
And you weren't
just
there either.
I was there.
No, you weren't. You
on
just-
the first one. I was there on the first one.
Hearsay doesn't count.
Yeah. All right.
Hearsay
Hearsay. I think it's from the horse's mouths. But anyway, we don't want to. We did it before.
Could be from a horse's mouth, or it could be from a jackass's mouth.
We're not going to
Depends
do
on
it
who
again.
that horse is.
All right. So let's talk about the greatest receiver leader that I was ever around,
Oh.
and that was Michael Irvin. And to me, he's the greatest receiver ever, and I can back it up with the numbers.
Look at Shannon. Shannon looked away. The greatest receiver leader. Yeah, he led half his teammates right to the damn crack house. That's what he led them to. All right. If I remember correctly, they had like a building where the players would go to called the White House, where they would do coke and fuck a bunch of hoes over there. All right. Yeah, Michael led him on the field. He led him off the field also.
Numbers. And I think even you would agree that Jerry Rice played in the most receiver-friendly offense ever invented, the West Coast offense.
Not his fault.
Okay, but he played in it and he benefited from it. Michael played in a receiver-unfriendly offense.
No. Michael Irvin played in an offense where he never really had to worry about double teams because he had Alvin Harper on the other side to stretch the field, and he had the greatest offensive line in history, which provided him with a running game attack where they couldn't afford to double team him. All right, Michael Irvin was phenomenal, but nah.
Offense that was built completely around Emmitt Smith, and it hurt the productivity of the quarterback and the number one receiver for sure. But if I show you the numbers from 1991 to 1998, which was when Michael was at his peak, his numbers are better than the great Jerry Rice's. And more than that, before I get into that, Jerry, if you know him, and I do know him very well, he was more of a follower than a leader.
No, Jerry was not a rah-rah guy in the locker room. That's not fair. Jerry Rice was a leader. If you ask the receivers in that era, he was the guy that they copied. They copied his form of conditioning, running up the hills and all the stuff that he used to do. Jerry Rice revolutionized a lot of the training techniques that the receivers use back in the 80s, from the 80s and into the 90s. The stuff that he was doing, a lot of the receivers copied. Even Chris Carter acknowledged that. All right, but what he wasn't a guy to get in the locker room like Michael Irvin, who probably snorted a line of coke right before one of his speeches and give one of them William Wallace speeches and then head out on the field and destroy a team. No, he wasn't that guy, but he was a guy who led by example.
Leader, while Michael was the driving force, the leader of a team that should have won 4 straight Super Bowls.
Yeah, he was the driving force. He was driving right to the damn crack house.
Bowls if Jerry hadn't fired Jimmy Johnson after the 2nd Super Bowl. And they did win 3 out of 4, thanks in large part to Michael Irvin. And if we look at these numbers from 91 to 98, the receptions are about the same. But receptions for first down, 531 for Michael Irvin to 467 for Jerry. Receptions for first down on third down, 142 to 134. Fourth quarter yards, 1,030 for Michael Irvin to 868 for Jerry Rice. And then if I start into the playoffs, look at Irvin's teams over those years. 12-4 in the playoffs to Jerry's 7-5.
You got to do a disclaimer, Skip. Jerry tore his ACL the first game of '96.
Okay.
He missed 15 games. Now,
and Skip already knew that, but Skip is so disingenuous, he tried to run with those stats anyway. That's like I said, they say numbers never lie. Well, no, people can manipulate numbers and make them say what they like them to say. But as Shannon said so well, Jerry Rice tore his knee up. I'll never forget this. They were playing Tampa Bay, and they ran a damn reverse. And Warren Sapp caught him in the backfield. I think it was Warren Sapp's rookie season, matter of fact. If it wasn't his rookie season, it was his second season. But I remember it being Warren Sapp who grabbed him and tore his knee up that year. First game of the damn season. And Skip gonna sit there reading them stats, those fake stats like a little bitch, trying to prove that Michael Irvin was better than Jerry Rice, already knowing that Jerry Rice missed a season during that era. Michael Irvin wasn't even the second best receiver in the 90s. All right. Chris Carter was better than him, and Sterling Sharp, before Sterling Sharp hurt his neck, was better than Michael Irvin too.
That was when I became on the scene.
You came on the scene,
yeah.
Okay? But I'm saying, in an unfriendly receiver offense, Michael still dominated. And he dominated in the playoffs, even though, now, look,
Just
Jerry played 12 playoff games.
Just because he got more first downs than Jerry doesn't make him great.
He was called the playmaker for a reason. Because all he did was make plays. And I was there. And in Washington and New York and Philadelphia in December, I wanted that man in my foxhole because he saved their bacon time and time again.
This guy's nothing but a Cowboy fan. Yeah, he made plays. He catch the football during the game, and after the game, he catch the 8-ball.
Again, with huge catches.
That means the Cowboys
I've never
weren't
seen like
as efficient downs 1 through 3
Yep.
as the Niners were. So he had to be that guy to get the first down. So those numbers are a little
You wouldn't have to be
skewed
a Cowboy fan, would you?
Those
I
numbers
am.
skewed to me.
But you know what? I wasn't even the biggest Michael fan because obviously he had lots of issues off the field. But he did not bring them on the field or into the locker room. When it was time to work, he worked. Practice, he practiced. Lead, he led. I've never seen a force of nature like Michael
Irvin. It's still an
Irvin.
extension of the locker room, isn't it?
that's what they say.
You know,
That's what they say about you now.
Exactly.
Just like T.O., people have their thoughts about opinions about T.O. And when I played in the 80s, and when I held out, I was this bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
I was a cancer to the football team. I was a distraction. I was not a locker room lawyer. I played football and went home. I didn't like talking to the media. I was a real quiet guy, almost like him. That wasn't me. But all of a sudden, they throw that on you, and all of a sudden, people like when they meet you, it's like, man, you're not nothing like I thought, nothing like I heard. You're not like that, because that wasn't me. I mean, I wasn't that guy that everybody hated. When I came back and played the Rams, when I played with the Colts, man, them guys hugged. I was so glad to see those players. I never wanted to leave the Rams. that was the Rams' choice to a sense. I mean,
Which I been a role player for the Rams.
Thank you. I told John Robinson run 47 gap. You know, and then
I get the same
so it's the
thing
same
that he
thing.
does.
I mean, please, it's the same thing with T.O.
Swear,
I got
all
Jerry
the time.
I got Jerry, and I've said this before, and I'm not just saying this because T.O.'s here. You've heard me say it at nauseam, Skip. Jerry is number 1. T.O. in my book is number 2. Randy Moss is number 3. I'm sorry.
That's about the same list that I have. And the only thing that T.O. and Randy Moss, they were a little mentally unstable. But, you know, amongst the guys that I saw, I'll put them up there. Sterling Sharp probably would be number 4, but he got hurt. And then you got Chris Carter. But Chris Carter, he was another nut job. I don't like guys who's all on them drugs. You can't count on them. But, yeah, I agree with the list. But Jerry Rice, he's one with a bullet. Because them other guys, they had mental problems. Terrell Owens and Randy Moss, you couldn't count on them. Because they would have mental breakdowns.
I love Playmaker, and don't call my phone.
Which one?
He not easy. I wouldn't even put Mike in the top 5.
Boy, that is
Wow.
right.
He better
I agree with that.
not call my phone.
Some of the stuff that comes out of your mouth is blasphemous.
Oh, I like where we're going here.
Painful truth.
Oh, no, save it for the next segment.
So how can you say that to this man?
Don't call my phone.
Watch both those sides. Everybody's saying nobody's allowed to leave. No, I like where we're going. Much more from Terrell and Eric coming up. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Eric Dickerson and Terrell Owens still with us. So let's talk running backs, Eric. Given your Hall of Fame career, who is the greatest running back of all time?
Well, I'm going to stop by saying this.
Do the one
Stop by saying this. My friend Walter Payton, who passed away, we did a show, Coach. Remember the show, Coach?
Oh, yeah.
You probably
Yeah.
Coach.
I remember that.
Coach.
Yeah.
So we were doing Coach. Me, him, and LT were doing Coach. And we sit back there talking about football. And Walter said, Eric, I want to say something to you. I said, what? He said, man, I want to say thank you for getting traded. I said, why you say that? He said, you broke all the records. I said, man, he said, Eric, trust me. I know you broke all of them the way you run that football. I said, thanks. But anyway, I say that to say this. I leave myself out of it. I never put myself in these running back topics. To me, the greatest running back that I ever saw was O.J. Simpson.
I agree. On film, O.J. Simpson's the greatest running back I've ever seen. All right? And no, he didn't kill them people. For people out there who want to talk all that nonsense about O.J. Simpson running up with a knife and stabbing up 2 people and only getting 1 scratch on his damn finger that wasn't even on the gloves that they found. All right? No, he didn't kill them 2 people. And yes, he is the greatest running back I've ever seen on film. The greatest running back I've ever seen live was Terrell Davis. And the most exciting running back I've ever seen was Barry Sanders. All right? But the greatest running back I've ever seen live is Terrell Davis. The best running back I've ever seen on film is, of course, the Juice. And who I'm already on record as saying I believe was a Monarch athlete. Just too many triggers for him to not be. But that's a whole other issue. But I already covered that in the video.
He was my favorite. I liked the way he ran the football. Played on some terrible football teams. First guy to run for 2,000 yards. He ran the snow in Buffalo. Did it in Buffalo.
in 14 games.
In 14 games. I always say that. And I always say that. 14 games. I had it in 16. I did 15. 2015 had an extra game. But that to me shows to me the greatest back to ever play. And right there, and I know Jim Brown to me would be second because I didn't see Jim play. I see the highlights.
Right.
And I know Jim's a phenomenal player and lacrosse player also.
Right.
But to me as a running back, my guy was for sure O.J. Simpson.
Man. Get loose, Juice. Everybody want to be
the
32.
Juice is loose.
Everybody want to be 32. Who you got?
I like Walter. I didn't grow up watching a lot of football.
Right.
But I remember growing up seeing a little bit of it. And I remember watching, some of the Chicago Bears. I remember the Super Bowl shuffle and stuff like that. I didn't get to really see ED play, but I watched some highlights. This dude right here is a gazelle.
Yeah.
Behind in some pads.
Yeah, he ran high too. Eric Dickerson, he's a great running back to watch on the highlights. He ran so tall. But he's up there. But when I saw Dickerson, when I started watching football, he was with the Colts. And he wasn't the guy that he was with the Rams. The Rams kind of ran him into the ground. You know, he had like 4 years averaging like over 300 carries a year. Like they ran all the oomph out of him. By the time he got to Indianapolis, he wasn't the same guy, and plus they didn't have the same offensive line.
I mean, this guy right here, man.
He made every running back went out and got a neck roll. Because he had a neck roll. I got a neck roll. My brother had a neck roll. If you played running back, you had to have a neck roll. I can see.
Man, but I would have to. Walter Payton and ED. Those are the two that like I said, I never really got to see a lot of football growing up, but just watching the highlights, man, to see some of the stuff and the moves that Walter did, unbelievable. I mean, he was relentless. He reminds me of a graceful Marshawn Lynch. Like,
that's a great comparison. That's a great comparison. He's like Marshawn Lynch with better toes and a little bit more explosive. That's what Walter was. And it's funny that arguably at least I can't say the most prolific, but arguably the greatest players at the running back and the wide receiver position both came out of Division II all-black colleges, so-called black colleges, right? Walter Payton and Jerry Rice.
Like he seeped out.
Yeah. He's trying to hit me, I'm gonna hit you first.
Exactly.
And that flipper.
And this guy here, I'm watching NFL Network. I'm watching My Football Life. That's when I kind of got the idea of the notion that we were similar in a lot of ways, and we ended up meeting after that through our business guy, his business management, and we sat there and we talked to Cheesecake. I thought it was gonna go for like 30, 40 minutes. We was up for like a couple of hours.
That's both of you guys. Once y'all get warmed up, y'all be doing some talking.
Yeah, but they talk. But watching this guy run is unbelievable.
I feel sacrilegious saying this because you know, when this guy enters the room, even though we all have gold jackets, everybody stands. That's Jim Brown. But for me, I'm going to take Walter Payton because his first 10 years, he had over 13,000 yards, 89 touchdowns, but they were 71 and 76. He has no other offensive player in the Hall of Fame. Jim played with 2 offensive linemen, and Bobby Mitchell is also in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
All the other Emmett.
I believe Jim Brown played with Paul Warfield too. For those of you guys who don't know Paul Warfield, if you ever see him on NFL films, incredible wide receiver. I don't even know who to liken him to today. Maybe let me see if I could think of somebody to liken him to. I mean, damn. Maybe like a slightly taller Odell Beckham. I mean, that guy used to make so many acrobatic catches and great in the open field. Paul Warfield, number 42. If you get a chance, look him up on YouTube. Great player. Played with the Cleveland Browns in the 60s and then went over to the Miami Dolphins in the 70s.
Hall of Fame quarterback, Hall of Fame receiver, Hall of Fame offensive lineman.
Yep.
If you look, Walter, he had none of that. And he carried those teams. Those teams were terrible.
They were bad. I can't lie. They was
Look, I don't say anything bad about Bob Avellini and Vince Evans, but come on now. Stop playing. We too big for that. We grown folk in here. I went with him. I call him the Godfather. I didn't see it of him. I remember ED's career. The dude had almost 4,000 yards in his first 2 seasons. Emmett, it's hard to judge him because the holes that he was running through was so big. He had the most dominant offensive lineman. And everybody keeps talking about, this offensive lineman, the Cowboys.
No, that was
the best.
They might have one guy on this offensive line right now that could start for those old guys.
Right.
And that would be the left tackle.
correct.
But ain't nobody starting over Larry Allen.
No.
Ain't nobody starting over Nate Newton.
Eric
And Big
Reed.
Ears, that's the thing, Skip. He might have been their best offensive line. Had he not got hurt, Big Easy was going to be in the Hall of Fame. So I went with Walter Payton as my number 1. But ED, man, there's no question in my mind. Had he stayed with the Rams, he probably had.
In regards to what he said about Emmett, in regards to what Shannon said about Emmett, I agree. Emmett kind of gets penalized because of how great his offensive line was. Emmett was a great back, but he wasn't on the level of any of these other guys. He just wasn't. But, Emmett was a guy, he was like one of those little engine that could dudes. Like, he just came out of nowhere. Next thing you know, he got 17,000, 18,000 rushing yards.
But he'd have been broke.
But I'm surprised to hear Shannon not mention Terrell Davis. Because Terrell Davis, even though his career was very, very short and it was cut short, oh man, for like 3 years, he was incredible. 3-4 years before he got hurt.
Allow me to close the case. I was the biggest OJ fan, and unfortunately what happened off the field overshadowed a lot of that for a lot of people.
Yes.
But for a
CIA psychological operation, what that was.
A 6-year stretch, this man was the greatest I ever laid eyes on.
Yeah.
Because you want to talk about dominating the league. 4 times in 6 years, he led this league in rushing, and he averaged 1,653 yards over a 6-year span, including, of course, 2105, the single-season record. And I don't think your offensive line, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. And I remember Dieter Brock was your quarterback, right? So it's just Eric or bust. And he busted up a lot of people, including my Cowboys in that one playoff game.
That's right.
246 yards right up the gut, man. 248.
No,
sorry.
give my
248. And you're right. Gazelle ran upright, which a lot of people, you say you can't run that way, but he could run that way, and nobody could get him on the ground. And it was the greatest 6-year stretch I've ever seen.
Why couldn't the Rams come to give you what you thought you deserved?
People always think that like I want the leader. I want the leader, and I got so much money. I was making $250,000, and I had my signing bonus. I had a 4-year deal at 2.2. My signing bonus when I left the Rams, when I got to the car, I had to pay it back to them. I gave them a check for $600,000. They wanted their signing bonus back because it was supposed to be an unforgivable loan. So I mean, my deals were never good there, and I gotta say, John Shaw was a shrewd negotiator. I mean, he was a numbers guy. And he was all about, I hate to say, at that time, beating the players. And John was a friend of mine then. I still tease him about it. I mean, it was not good for us. I mean, because with the Rams, it was their way or no way. Right. That's how it was. I went to his office in 1986. I had just left the league in rushing, had 14 touchdowns. And I said, I tell you what, I will do year by year. Just give me year by year. If I play well, give me the contract that Marino and them have, $1.5 million. Look at me, we won't do that.
There's no way in the hell they was going to give you the same contract as Dan Marino, brother. I could have told you that shit. But then again, back in the 80s, the running back was viewed as being just about as important as the quarterback. But you wasn't getting as much money as Dan Marino. Dan Marino back in the 80s was like Aaron Rodgers is viewed now.
And that kind of like, well, this ain't going to work.
Eric, Terrell, thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to check out, you served your time here. Be sure to check out their new show on Facebook coming this fall, guys. It was a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Now you notice Terrell Owens and Skip Bayless, they didn't shake hands at all. There's definitely no love lost between them. All right, it is what it is. But that was a great conversation. I just figured that I would include that. But there's no doubt in my mind, Jerry Rice is not only the greatest wide receiver in NFL history, he's the greatest player in NFL history. All right, he dominated in different eras. All right, he was a cross-era dominating player. So I mean, this to me, it's I won't say it's not a close second, but he is definitively the greatest football player to ever play. And in regards to running backs, the greatest running back I ever saw live, in my opinion, was Terrell Davis, and the most exciting was Barry Sanders. But the greatest I ever saw on film was OJ. No doubt about it. But peace.